so I have to switch my camera over to see it's for a Range Rover Evoque Diesel version, 2.2 litre, and this particular one is a 2015 model. The intercooler pipe runs from the front of the motor, just from the fuel intake. It runs down to the bottom to the intercooler, just behind the radiator, and it's a very easy fix. You can open up the bonnet from the front. Both of the clips can be accessible without removing the top cover of the motor, and down the bottom a little bit more difficult to get a screwdriver or a ratchet inside there. I just simply used a size 7 door spanner, ring spanner. It does take a little bit longer, and when I put it back, I'm going to put it back with a screwdriver, just because of the repositioning of the the repositioning cannot be, because the clamp is actually fixed onto the hose itself. It cannot rotate, so I need to use the spanner again to fasten it. It's a little bit more difficult, the bottom one that goes into the intercooler, but it's very easy to remove it. It takes less than 10 minutes to remove the pipe. This is what the turbo intercooler hose looks like. On the one side it's got about a 71 millimeter outside diameter hose, on the other 61 outside, which is roughly about a 57 inside. And the point where I had a crack on this hose, I've already cut it, as you can see, and you can probably see the crack reasonably easily now, and I've cut it through the crack over there. That diameter on the hose is internal roughly 50 millimeter. So all I went is went out to my local turbo components shop, and here in Cape Town it's Mr. Turbo in Kulani Gardens, and I found this little pipe over there by them. It's an aluminium pipe by the weight of it, I think, possibly stainless, but it feels like aluminium. Code on it is AB14, and this particular pipe is got about a 45-degree bend in it, and I would imagine, you can see my hand size, roughly 400 millimeter or something long. I'm going to cut it, because all I want to really do is I want to put that bend inside there and fasten it up again. And I bought 2 other little clamps like that from them. It's the best quality I could find, and the total amount of these 3 components over there was about 250 rand. So I do believe, instead of paying 2,880 rand for a new pipe and 1,300 to 1,500 rand for a quoted fit on that particular pipe, I should be able to do it in an hour and a half, and that includes my time to go and fetch the pipe, and I should have a reasonable repair with very little chance of leakage. Once I've assembled it, I'll give you a time on it. What I've decided to do, instead of cutting this pipe with an hacksaw, I'm just going to use a grinder with a steel disc, and I'm going to cut, I would imagine, roughly about 2 inches from the mark of the bend. So there's the center of the bend. I'd imagine sort of 2 to 3 inches on either side. I'm going to cut the pipe off. Once I'm done with that, I'll show you the cuts. I won't be holding this and cutting at the same time, and then assembling. After cutting the pipe with a grinder, it is a little bit rough, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to sand the burrs off with 100 grit sandpaper that's been used, and just quickly to trim the edges so it doesn't damage the pipe, or it fits in quite neatly. I'll do the other cuts soon. If you have files, it'll be probably a lot easier and faster just to clean it up using a file. If you wish, you could cut the rubber or the cracked piece out of the rubber to expose the aluminium pipe that's inside, but I really don't see it necessary, or doesn't look pretty or anything, and seeing the crack is pretty much hidden. So I'm just going to leave it so that my alignment is probably as good as I could probably get it. I'm going to be cutting the next piece of this aluminium off, and a little bit shorter, I think. I would imagine probably only something like 2 inches or so from the center of the bend in this case, so maybe an inch shorter than the previous cut. In all honesty, I've attempted to cut the second one with a hacksaw, and it's actually a lot easier than cutting it with a grinder. The advantage is you have a lot less burring to actually sand or file off. So now I'm going to insert the longer part of the bend into the down section, or the lower section of the pipe, because the diameter is consistent through that section over there, and there's no flaring of the pipe wider than the insert, so I'm not reducing the airflow there in any way. I'm just going to put that clamp over the top of this one and jam the clamp over the top of that end, so I don't have to take it apart again. And then I'm just going to squeeze this end back over the top there, and my crack is going to give me the alignment that I require. And all I'm going to do is fasten it up now so that the crack gets covered on both ends over here. And hopefully I've got enough of a joint in there. I'll probably have to pull this up a little bit more, and that side over there, so that it covers on either side of the crack. So I've now fastened the aluminium bend into the pipe, and you'll see that I've pretty much aligned the cut that I made in it, so you might not even have to cut it completely off. And the crack is aligned up on the back end, and I've made sure that the cracks that go up to the clamps only just go up to the edge of the clamps, and not deep underneath the clamps. You don't want leakage through underneath the clamp. So that should be sealed reasonably well. If I find any loose clamps lying in my spares, then I'm going to actually just fasten another clamp around there and there, which simply will just hold it on a bit more. It won't do anything for the leak, but it'll certainly prevent any slipping if there is going to be any pressure build up and there would be any force pulling these two clamps apart, opening up that seal that I've got on there at the moment. Probably not necessary, but yeah, better safe than sorry, I reckon. So let's see if I've got any more stainless steel clips that are pretty standard pipe clips like this lying around. And then I'm going to fit it. What I did do is I also just put the bolts into such a position that it's most likely not going to interfere with anything in the car, or actually putting the pipe back into the car again. So as it happened to be, I found one reasonably okay and one pretty old clamp, but a little bit of overkill will never do any harm. So I do believe that that is more than required to secure that connection there now, even with the existing, or the pressure that's expected of about 0.6, 0.8 bar with inside of this pipe. I've seen on other videos that they say you need to remove the bottom plates of the motor, which is right underneath here. As you can see, I actually have removed that bottom plate. If you look in there, it did give me a little bit more light, which is a good thing, so that you could remove the pipe through the bottom of the engine. But I found that it's actually not necessary, because without damaging anything inside here, it's quite easy to get the pipe back down through the side of the motor like that. As you can see, the pipe's just going straight into where it needs to go. And excuse my little tubs here of oil, but very easy just to push the pipe back in through the top of the motor and into a secure position. And if I look carefully over here, I don't see anything there that these clamps are going to interfere with. So let's see, once it's in position, if I need to move those clamps or not. There we go. I have the pipe back in position. I don't know if you can see clearly enough over there, or if the reflection is a bit high on those clamps. As the pipe sits underneath the, sits just below the fuel intake over here, and heads down past the fan, which is quite comfortable over there. There's no interference between those the bolts and the fan, or the fan blades, or any of the pulleys, or anything of that nature. And on the other side, if it's possible to see down there, very difficult actually. You can do most of this by feel, to be real honest. It's quite easy. The pipe is back onto the intercooler again, and there we go. Simple installation, fastened up with a spanner, and we're ready to roll. Alright, here's some things I learned on this process. Doing it properly, or doing it quickly, or knowing what you're doing, or having the right tools, like having a 7mm ratchet as opposed to a ring spanner, would probably save you 45 minutes on removing and assembling that pipe again. It's a very easy job to do. I actually believe that if you have the crack in the place that I had a crack on this particular pipe, you probably didn't even have to remove the pipe. You could simply get in there easily enough from top or bottom, cut that pipe, not even all the way through, insert the bend if you knew where it needed to go, and clamp it back up again. Removing the pipe does make it a little bit more precise, and you know exactly what kind of result you're going to get. Other things, yeah, not a difficult job to do, quick. The time in labor, well, that depends on the value of your time. If it's a Saturday afternoon or a lazy day like it is for me, then the labor is not really that costly to myself and my family. I would rather have the 3,000 Rand, which is maybe, how much is that, $100 and $200 or something of that nature, buy my son a bicycle than and the 2 hours that is spent I've taken to do this job. And that includes the driving all the way to collect the parts, the components, find out if they work, find out the diameters of the pipe, in this particular case 50mm inside, where the crack was. So pretty much a very easy process, a very quick process, and definitely a money saving and worthwhile exercise. So if you don't hear anything further from me in this video, it means that everything has gone well. If of course there's a follow-up video on this, it means that there are some extenuating circumstances. I don't need to show you necessarily now the well, by the way, this is also another way if you really wanted to. These cars can climb anything, so very, very easy way to get the car onto a lift if you need to. And as I say, it probably really doesn't make any difference for me to show you the inside the dash now, where you normally have the sign coming up indicating the problem. This one just says, oh, key not found. Well, there we go, probably because I don't have my key with me. Normally you'll have, in this particular case, the car comes up with a report on it because of this pipe now that was broken, and your car goes into limp mode, into reduced performance. So I do believe that I won't have a reduced performance indicator coming up, and the car should be running perfectly fine after this. Once again, if you hear from me after this on YouTube or on any platform, then I will post any problems that do occur from this repair.